3:24 a.m. The Strait of Hormuz erupts in a red alert. The Aegis radar on the USS Abraham Lincoln sweeps the dark, detecting a first red blip, then a second, a third, and a fourth, appearing in rapid succession. In a heartbeat, the screen explodes into a storm of 47 targets, tearing through the waves at Mach 0.9. From 200 meters out, a swarm of drones and cruise missiles screams toward the heart of the U.S. Navy. The clock is ticking. A 94-second engagement window. A billion-dollar behemoth and thousands of sailors stand on the edge. Either the curtain of steel rises now, or they all become a heap of scrap metal on the ocean floor. At the world's most volatile energy choke point, the cards are on the table, and the opening gambit has just been made. Welcome to Strategic Horizon, your portal to understanding the cutting edge of global defense and strategic challenges. The tension inside the Lincoln's Combat Direction Center has hit its absolute limit. For 4 brutal weeks, Iran has been relentlessly tightening its tactical noose around the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to choke off 20% of the world's oil supply. While U.S. paratroopers and special forces scramble to protect the coastlines, the Lincoln sits right at the epicenter of a global economic powder keg. To put it in perspective, we're talking about 840,000 barrels of oil flowing through this choke point every single hour. If just one of those incoming ghosts hits its mark, gas prices in Los Angeles won't just rise, they will double by sunrise. And the billion-dollar Lincoln could end its mission as a heap of scrap metal on the ocean floor. But the real nightmare isn't just the sheer number of targets, it's the twisted creativity behind them. For the past 3 months, Houthi rebels have been silently preparing a poor man's apocalypse in the dark. Instead of stealth bombers, they are using commercial DJI drones modified into suicide assassins with 50-kilogram warheads. This is a digital jailbreak of modern warfare. 3:28 a.m. They route these drones just like hackers trying to play cracked games on a cheap Android phone, using low-cost AI to bypass encrypted GPS locks. It's 1,000 hacks squaring off against a $13 billion giant. They are betting that this disposable swarm can overwhelm the world's most advanced integrated defense system, proving that in modern warfare, a smart hack can be just as lethal as a cruise missile. 3:30 a.m. The Aegis tactical display, usually a model of surgical precision, suddenly shatters into a chaotic smear of flickering red icons. The Houthi drones have executed their first clever maneuver. They are hugging the massive steel hulls of 300-meter oil tankers, blending their radar signatures into these islands of steel on the Lincoln's monitors. Lethal threats and neutral merchant ships merge into a single, indistinguishable mass of pixels. The commander's hand hovers over the fire control, frozen. A single missile hitting a neutral tanker would turn the Strait of Hormuz into a global political graveyard. GPS spoofing pulses continue to batter the fleet's sensors, generating hundreds of ghost targets for every real drone. It's a digital hall of mirrors at Mach 0.9, forcing the U.S. Navy to play a high-stakes game of who's who while the clock ticks down. The E-2D Hawkeye screams into a steep dive from its overhead station, its massive radar dome slaving every sensor in the fleet to a single, purified data stream through Link 16. The deception begins to fail. At the perimeter, F-35C Lightning IIs bank hard. Their distributed aperture systems ignore the radar noise to lock onto the microscopic infrared glow of drone engines. These thermal signatures don't lie. Data pulses back to the Lincoln, and the Aegis AI begins scrubbing the battlefield in nanoseconds. One by one, the digital ghosts are stripped away like a hot knife through wax, leaving 47 cold, lethal threats illuminated clearly against the black backdrop of the ocean. 3:32 a.m. The Lincoln's port side erupts in a deafening roar of steam and fire. Two FA-18 Super Hornets are violently slung into the night by the steam catapults, just 90 seconds from the initial alarm. Below them, the escorting destroyer's vertical launch cells blow their hatches in a series of synchronized explosions. RIM-162 Sea Sparrow missiles scream into the sky, their rocket motors lighting up the horizon for kilometers. It's a systematic harvest. ESSMs shred the lead wave of the attack, turning $8,000 modified drones into a falling rain of plastic and burning fuel. 29 targets are erased from existence in a matter of heartbeats. The sky is a graveyard of cheap tech meeting cutting-edge processing power, but the victory is short-lived. The radar suddenly spits out a new, more desperate warning. The first wave was merely the bait. 3:35 a.m., an ear-piercing electronic shriek rips through every headset in the Combat Direction Center. The Aegis display, the fleet's $12 billion nervous system, doesn't just flicker, it explodes into a solid wall of white static. High-powered shore-based emitters have just completely burned out every frequency band. The 18 remaining targets, including heavy cruise missiles and second-generation suicide drones, are shrieking through the darkness at approximately 1,126 kilometers per hour. They vanish into thin air. The Lincoln, a 100,000-ton giant, is now like swinging arms blindly in a dark room full of knives. Houthi emitters scream across every frequency like a jet engine roaring in a silent library, completely drowning out all radar scanning efforts. This digital blizzard causes even the most modern sensors to lose their orientation. 3:37 a.m. In the middle of the night, the EA-18G Growler, the ultimate electronic predator, banks into a sharp, high-G turn. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's vision narrows as his flight suit inflates under the pressure. He activates the next-generation jammer pods under the wings. They don't just pulse, they glow with an invisible, furious energy. A concentrated, devastating electronic counterattack sweeps straight at the coordinates of the shore emitters. The impact is instantaneous. The electronic screaming falls silent. It's as if the Growler just put noise-canceling headphones on the entire fleet, punching a hole of silence through the wall of interference, restoring digital vision just as the targets close in on the inner defense perimeter. Reaction time is shrinking by every millisecond. Sensor fusion takes control. Even while the main radar is struggling to calibrate, the F-35Cs have transmitted an unjammable 8K infrared stream directly into the pilots' helmets. The battlefield is no longer a flickering radar screen, it is a high-definition destruction zone. While Houthi operators stare at screens flashing connection errors, the U.S. Navy is observing them with Netflix-quality clarity. Every target is marked in glowing red, their flight paths predicted by the Lincoln's silicon brain with terrifying accuracy. The enemy is plunged into darkness, but for the Lincoln, the night has never been clearer. 18 targets are locked. The order to fire is now just a formality. 3:39 a.m. While the sky is a chaotic canvas of fire and static, a quieter, deadlier threat is creeping through the shallow, murky waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Two Ghadir-class submarines, supplied by Iran and stripped of all identifying marks, are silently closing in from the ocean floor. They are moving ghosts, exploiting the acoustic shadow of the underwater mountain ranges to approach. They are targeting the fleet's Achilles heel, waiting for a single opening to deliver a fatal blow from below. While the entire world is fixated on the sky, they rely on the chaos above to conceal their movements, moving extremely slowly to avoid creating air bubbles, hiding within layers of silt and sand. But they have made a fatal mistake. They believe they are the only predators here. 3:40 a.m. At a depth of 30 meters, a Virginia-class attack submarine had been lying in wait for 48 hours, silent as a tomb. Inside the American vessel, the sonar room was a space of suffocating concentration, illuminated only by the pulses from high-frequency sensors. While the Ghadir tried to stay silent, its diesel-electric engine still screeched like a beat-up motorcycle in the empty night. With the Virginia's advanced sonar arrays, they might as well have been holding a megaphone and screaming. The American submarine is the ultimate predator, operating with absolute silence and the smoothness of an advanced ecosystem. It doesn't just hear the enemy, it maps every mechanical pulse through the seabed mud. Target locked. Before a single air bubble could rise to the surface, the Virginia-class submarine delivered a brutal, surgical strike. The Ghadirs hadn't even caught a glimpse of the hunter. The threat was neutralized in complete silence, proving that while the Houthi play with their noisy toys, the U.S. Navy moves like a Tesla Plaid, deadly, electrified, and completely inaudible. 3:42 a.m. The sky was nearly clear, but the nightmare wasn't over. The final 6 targets, the fastest and most advanced, suddenly dropped altitude, vanishing from long-range radar. They flew sea-skimming, gliding over the waves at Mach 0.9 to hide within the water's turbulence and saltwater spray. The Aegis system shrieked its final warning, but the outer ring destroyers were struggling. Due to lingering electronic jamming, the final salvo of ESSM missiles lost lock-on just before impact and plunged harmlessly into the sea. A suicide drone pierced the final defensive barrier, hurtling straight toward the Lincoln's command tower. Target closing in. Prepare for impact. The shrill alarm blared across all decks, a chilling sound signaling that all tactical options were exhausted. Inside the command center, lights flickered as the ship's power was diverted entirely to the internal defense systems. The crew lay flat on the steel deck, clinging to anything fixed. This was the point of no return. At a distance of less than 1.5 kilometers, the Phalanx CIWS system, an R2-D2 with a machine gun, took absolute control. The automatic gun mount whipped the 20mm Vulcan barrel toward the horizon. The sound was like a giant chainsaw tearing through space at 4,500 rounds per minute. A wall of tungsten bullets shattered the atmosphere. The first 5 targets vaporized instantly, but the final target was hit when it was already too close. Inertia propelled it through the wall of bullets. The Phalanx tore it apart just 150 meters from the ship's side. The explosion created a blazing, orange-black sun. The shockwaves slammed into the Lincoln's side like a steel fist, dragging a wall of seawater and fiery debris down onto the launch deck. A red-hot engine fragment screeched through the air, embedding itself directly into the steel hull of an F-35C awaiting refueling. Thick, black smoke engulfed the bridge, and foam from the waves covered the fire control radars. The aircraft carrier shook violently, the deck trembling beneath the crew's feet, but the heart of the U.S. Navy still beat. 100% of targets destroyed. The entire engagement lasted exactly 15 minutes. The Houthi intended to pull off a close-range maneuver like in an action movie, but they forgot that the Phalanx fires at an incredible 4,500 rounds per minute. That's not just shooting, that's clearing debris with a steel laser. 3:55 a.m. Black smoke from the shredded remains of the drone still clung to the hull of the USS Abraham Lincoln. On the launch deck, firefighters were spraying white foam onto the charred wreckage of the F-35C. But inside the Combat Direction Center, there was no room for panic or rest. The tactical map had shifted from defensive green to the fiery red of the counter-strike order. 3:56 a.m. Exactly 11 minutes after the final CIWS round, the U.S. Navy began its annihilation. Not only from the Lincoln, but the escorting Arleigh Burke-class destroyers unleashed fire in unison. Dozens of Tomahawk missiles pierced through the early morning fog, illuminating the sea in a symphony of punishment. Above the clouds, P-8 Poseidon aircraft and military satellites immediately pinpointed the exact coordinates of the jamming stations that had attempted to blind the fleet. This was a brutal brain surgery operation. Instead of targeting isolated launch pads, the U.S. struck directly at the brain. Ground-penetrating missiles leveled the underground command center and AI drone storage facility. Through satellite data, the CDC observed the results of the enemy's 3 months of preparation vanish in an instant. The rebels lost all their equipment and infrastructure. For the U.S., the cost was merely a high-intensity combat shift. The 15-minute battle successfully safeguarded the flow of 840,000 barrels of oil per hour to the world. The U.S. demonstrated the absolute superiority of a globally integrated, silicon-powered system over haphazardly modified individual weapons. The Strait of Hormuz remains open, not by luck, but thanks to unshakable technological might.